Hi, welcome to this part of my review featuring Fabula Ultima TTJRPG. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this tabletop role-playing game that attempts to bring the Japanese video game RPG experience to your table, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about teamwork and turn-related effects. When a character performs a check during a conflict scene, any other character that is able to help them and hasn't already taken a turn during the current round may choose to lend the active character a hand. If anyone does, the check turns into a group check, as described in a previous part of this review, but with a few key differences. Each helper becomes a supporting character in that group check, while the active player character is treated as the leader. Every support check is automatically successful. Each character who supported the leader is then considered as having taken their turn within the round. In other words, you can only help if you haven't already taken your turn, and doing so will burn your ability to act during that same round. Choose wisely. Note that this option can apply to any kind of check, including accuracy checks, magic checks, and opposed checks. This is a great way to represent characters working together to overcome a powerful opponent. When you can't strike a flying target with your sword, you might clear a path for your archer to help them anticipate the enemy's movement. When it comes to ending a conflict, as with any scene in the game master has the right to declare the ending of a conflict. This generally happens when one side has prevailed, when everyone is no longer able to oppose them, or when the participants negotiate some sort of truce. I think it's important to keep this as organic as possible, without marking the end in a rigid and artificial way. For example, maybe you are fighting within a volcanic cavern and suddenly this flow of lava separates both sides from fighting, or there is some sort of cave-in or collapse. That would be a good way to end the conflict. Remember, once people find an agreement, there's no conflict anymore, until they later regret or reconsider said agreement at least. Sometimes, the end of a conflict scene might mark the beginning of a different one. It is not uncommon for a brutal battle to turn into a chase as the losing side retreats, or a failed negotiation might turn to violence. Some characters could even have this change as their conflict goal, if they excel at a specific type of situation instead of the current one. When a conflict ends, all effects that last until the end of the scene will also cease to be. Keep this in mind when deciding whether you should switch to a different conflict or simply let the current conflict evolve in a different direction. In the end, remember that conflicts should only be used for high-stake moments and aren't the default resolution method for every tense situation. Concerning turn-related effects, effects that concern themselves with the start of a character's turn or the end of a character's turn follow a set of specific rules. The effect ends automatically when the conflict scene reaches its conclusion. The effect also ends if you die, fall unconscious, or leave the scene. If an effect begins, ends, or recharges at the start or at the end of a character's turn, such as the guard action or protect skill, that effect also begins, ends, or recharges immediately if you help another character through teamwork. If such an effect is somehow used outside of a conflict scene, although this doesn't happen often but it's still a possibility, it will last for a few seconds, enough to influence the outcome of a single check, generally. Then we have information on example goal clocks. While the explanation of the objective action given in a previous part of this review should give a pretty good idea of how it should be used, some additional examples are given here to provide some creative strategies that can be used during conflicts. When adjudicating whether the active character is performing an attribute check against a set difficulty level or an opposed check against another character that is present on the scene, remember that there is no limit to how many times a character may oppose an objective action within the same round. One example is called Bring It Down. While fighting against a winged dragon, the heroes decide to work together to keep it permanently on the ground and within reach of melee weapons. This is a major goal, since it will make the battle much easier, but will not end it by itself. The clock should probably have 6 sections. Perhaps if armed with a ranged weapon, you use a dexterity plus insight check to aim at the wings of the dragon and wound the muscles governing its movements. Or perhaps you wish to use insight plus willpower to help your group retreat towards a narrow canyon where the dragon will have trouble maneuvering. Most of these checks will be performed against the dragon's own checks, but the game master might also decide that other approaches must be made against the dragon's defense score. Then we have the example Catch the Thief. Heading towards their rooms in Carallon Castle, the heroes spot a suspicious figure at the end of a corridor, and in their hands is a powerful artifact known as the Sky Glass, the most precious treasure of Carallon's royal bloodline. The group immediately jumps into action, and a chase scene begins. The player characters want to reach and stop the thief, which is a resolutive goal. The game master sets this clock at 10 sections. Maybe you want to use dexterity plus insight to anticipate the thief's movements and cut them off. Or perhaps you want to use dexterity plus might to bolt forward and grab the thief before they get too far. These checks will be performed against the thief. Once the clock reaches 10, the group will have cornered the mysterious figure, but this might lead to a battle. Similarly, the thief has a clock of their own. Thanks to a significant head start on the heroes, the thief's clock has 8 sections only. If the thief manages to fill this clock, they will flee the scene with the Sky Glass. And these are just a couple of examples. You have plenty others, such as Convince the Queen, Keep them out, Stop the Ritual. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part we are going to talk about optional combat rules, hit points and mind points. I think it's very important to handle everything organically. When it comes to goals, the clocks, they should not be set in stone or inserted artificially or out of nowhere. They should always make sense with the context, with the actions and reactions of the player characters and non-player characters. Maybe the group is fighting a Leviathan type of creature, and one of the members of the party decides to set up a complex trap. Then the clock begins. You don't say something like, okay, my objective is to take the dragon down with the trap. The moment the player character takes that approach, the game master should set up that clock. Thank you for watching this part of the review, and thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.